Have you ever found yourself agreeing to something and then, like, a minute later you think, wait, why did I just say yes to that? Well, it turns out our brains are full of these little hidden triggers, these shortcuts that can be activated without us even noticing. In this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on the psychology of persuasion, all based on the incredible work of Dr. Robert Cialdini. And our guide for this journey is Cialdini's absolute classic, Influence. To get us started, let's just dive right into a story from the book that, on the surface, makes absolutely no sense. It's a story about a simple mistake that ended up being shockingly profitable. And this brings us to the big puzzle we're going to solve today. How is it possible that doubling the price of something could make people suddenly rush to buy it? I mean, it goes against everything we think we know about how shopping works, right? Okay, let's get into the details of this bizarre real-life event, because it is the perfect example of a powerful mental shortcut our brains just love to take. So picture this, an Indian jewelry store in Arizona. It's the peak of tourist season, and the owner has this display case filled with beautiful turquoise jewelry. The quality is great, the prices are totally fair, but for whatever reason, they're just not selling. Nothing. The owner tried everything. She moved the display case to the center of the store, she had her staff really push the items, but still, no luck. So finally, she's about to leave for a trip, and in total frustration, she scribbles a note to her head saleswoman. Everything in this display case, price times 1/2. She just wanted to cut her losses and get rid of this stuff. But, and this is where it gets wild, the employee couldn't read the owner's messy handwriting. She thought the 1/2 was a 2. So instead of cutting the prices in half, she went and doubled the price of every single item in the case. What do you think happened? The entire collection sold out almost overnight. Doubling the price made this unwanted jewelry completely irresistible. Now, to understand this completely bonkers human behavior, we actually need to take a look at something even weirder: the behavior of mother turkeys. Yeah, you heard that right. Turkeys. And this really gets to the core of it. See, to deal with our incredibly complex world, our brains have evolved to use shortcuts, automatic responses. It's something we share with the animal kingdom. Cialdini has a great name for it: the click-whir response. So, believe it or not, those tourists and a mother turkey have a lot in common. A mother turkey will viciously attack a polecat, which is its natural enemy. But scientists found that if you put a little recorder inside a stuffed polecat that plays the cheep cheep sound of a baby turkey, the mother will instantly gather the stuffed enemy under her wing and nurture it. Both the turkey and the tourists were running on an automatic program triggered by one single piece of information. Cialdini calls these fixed action patterns. The best way to think about it is like there's a pre-programmed tape in our brain. When a specific trigger appears, that's the click, a whole sequence of behaviors automatically plays out. That's the whir. Click, whir. For those tourists who probably didn't know much about turquoise jewelry, the high price was the click. It triggered a shortcut, a rule of thumb they'd learned over years and years of experience. Expensive equals good. They weren't consciously thinking it through. They were just running on autopilot, buying the assurance of quality that a high price tag implies. Okay, so that brings us to one of the most powerful weapons of influence there is. It's a principle so deeply wired into us that it governs pretty much every human society on the planet: the rule of reciprocity. The rule is super simple, right? We feel this powerful obligation to repay favors, gifts, invitations, you name it. This social pressure creates this sort of web of indebtedness that actually allows us to cooperate and trust each other. You could say it's the glue that holds society together. Let's look at this rule in action, because there was this really clever experiment. A researcher, let's call him Joe, was part of a study. During a break, for about half the people there, he did a small, unasked-for favor. He left the room and came back with a Coke for them. Now, after the experiment was over, Joe asked everyone if they'd be willing to buy some raffle tickets from him. And the results were just incredible. The people who got that surprise Coke, they bought twice as many raffle tickets as the people who didn't. And get this, the power of that tiny debt was so strong, it even worked on people who said they didn't like Joe. And once you know about this, you start seeing it absolutely everywhere. It's why the Hare Krishna Society gives you a gift, like a flower, before asking for a donation. It's why supermarkets hand out free samples. It's why charities mail you those free address labels. They all tap into that feeling of obligation, even for favors we never ever asked for. But here's where it gets even more subtle. You don't even have to give someone a physical gift to trigger this rule. You can trigger it by offering a concession. Cialdini calls it the rejection then retreat technique. Here's how it works. First, you make a big request, one you're pretty sure the other person will turn down. Then, after they say no, you retreat to a smaller request, which of course was the one you wanted all along. So check out this study. Researchers asked college students if they'd be willing to chaperone juvenile delinquents on a trip to the zoo. Only about 17% said yes. But with another group, they first asked for something huge. Would you be willing to counsel delinquents for 2 hours a week for 2 years? Of course, everyone said no. But when the researchers then retreated to the zoo trip request, compliance shot up to 50%. It tripled. Your smaller request is seen as a concession, so they feel obligated to make a concession of their own by saying yes. And this isn't just some small-time negotiation tactic. This was actually used to get the infamous Watergate break-in approved. G. Gordon Liddy first proposed this insane $1 million plan that involved kidnapping and blackmail. After that was shot down, his toned-down plan for a simple $250,000 break-in suddenly looked like a reasonable concession by comparison. So, wow. This rule is incredibly powerful and deeply ingrained. How in the world do you defend yourself against it without just becoming a hermit who refuses every kind gesture? Well, Cialdini's advice is brilliant. It's not to reject all offers out of hand. Go ahead and accept genuine favors. But you have to be ready to redefine the situation if you need to. If what seemed like a favor is suddenly revealed to be a setup, a sales tactic, you have to mentally reframe it. Call it what it is, a trick. And once you see it as a trick, not a gift, that feeling of obligation just evaporates. A trick doesn't need to be repaid with a favor. You're free. The rule of reciprocation is just one of these psychological forces that are constantly shaping our decisions, often without us even knowing it. By understanding how these automatic click-whir triggers work, we can start to spot them, sidestep them, and make choices that are actually our own. Which, of course, leaves one big question: what other hidden forces are guiding your choices?